We finally live in a day and age where the prize is not a man. I want to experience it all. I don't want to limit myself, and the prize is generational wealth. I don't enjoy working for other people. Like, what do you mean I have to sit at this desk 8 hours a day? And I finally was like, I want it all. Like, I want the fame on TikTok. I want my business to be successful. I'm ready to make a lot of money. You know, I'm ready to do it. And I finally spoke into existence. I microdosed mushrooms for the month and built my website in a day and just kind of turned it on its head and went, okay, we're gonna do this. You don't have to have it all figured out, so and you won't. And the mistakes and stressful moments and mishaps that happen along the way are kind of the fun of it, finding what you really love and feels really closely aligned to you. If it's not authentic to who you are, if you're not adding who your actual self is into it and what you really want, you're just kind of trying to copy paste what somebody else does, it's not going to work. And I think it's really important to know what it is that you love and you want to bring into this world, and be intentional about it. I'm not just some influencer that created a whatever product. This is my child and this is something I care very deeply about. I really want to know what happens if I just give this everything. I just never wanted to be dependent on somebody. All I want at the end of the day, I don't care how much money you make or what you're doing, is for someone to go, that's my girl. Yeah. You know, do the Will Smith moment. Don't slap anybody, but just go like this. I really give a shit. It feels like there's something special with it, and I hope I can one day do something really impactful with it and really make differences in people's lives. Thank you.
Paizley.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I've never been better. You know, we're having a good time.
What an opening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for
it is
having
an
me.
absolute thrill to meet you and talk to you today. I want to go back before we dive into Peach Honey today and everything that I find so exciting about what you're building. I want to go back because I think the context of where you came from and what you've gone through is informing so much of your content and indeed even the genesis of the brand. So if we can jump back, give us a sense of the world that you grew up in and some of the experiences you had towards the end of your high school years.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I will say I'm a desert lizard till the day I die. I think there's a lot of magic out there that I'm eternally grateful for to be raised in. Towards the end of my high school years, after a fairly normal childhood, my parents went through a pretty nasty divorce, which sent us all kind of spiraling into different directions. Mine was a little bit more of a wild child kind of world. I felt kind of free for the first time and very emboldened to just go out and see the world, and admittedly was also probably running from a lot of things within that, you know. My father and I had a bit of a challenging relationship growing up. I don't ever remember explicitly saying in therapy that I wanted a relationship with my father, but that's what always kind of came out. And so I think I was always sort of chasing that sense of connection. So when my parents divorced and I became the only child that was communicating between the two of them, there was something a bit validating in that, of oh, my father needs me now he wants to talk to me, and not really knowing that this young girl also needed to protect herself and not take on my father's trauma or, their divorce as my own, which he was okay with, kind of putting on me. So it was a bit of I call it my little tornado time. I was just kind of spiraling out and looking for something to feel anchored into, and just a sense of stability. Which ultimately led me to leaving Albuquerque to move to California. I originally thought I was going to live in San Francisco. I came up there on the train one day and was like, this is amazing. This is just the greatest place I've ever been. But I think it was just the only city that was different that I had been to in my adult life. And so I spent a little bit of time there and realized that was not my place. And luckily got to end up back in Los Angeles, where I just kind of hit the ground running and was able to really find myself there, which was really special, and it came with a lot of challenging times that I spent a lot of years feeling embarrassed about, that I didn't have it all figured out. And
at 18.
Yeah, how dare I? How dare I at 20 years old not know everything and have a bunch of money? But I was, you live in a city like Los Angeles and you watch all these kids who are incredibly successful or come from a lot of money, and to not be that at that age felt hard and like I was lost for a while. And now being at the age that I'm at now, I look back at her and I'm so grateful for everything that she went through and everything that she learned through those times. And I have a lot of admiration and love for her resilience. And half the time I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have done more stupid shit. You know, I wish I would have done something crazier.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. It might be a little. But yeah, you know, I think your 20s is such a time for experimenting and pushing the boundaries. And I'm so glad that she did. I'm so glad that she was a bit fearless in that and was able to kind of throw herself into the wind of Los Angeles and see where it took her.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Leaving where you grew up, particularly if you've had a difficult childhood or teenage years, it feels to me, because I did it, it feels like you have an opportunity to reinvent. Mm-hmm. And whilst whatever was troubling you where you were goes with you, and at some point you're going to need to work through that, yeah. There is then an opportunity to at least shed a skin. Did you feel that you were going through a process of reinvention moving to LA?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've done it time and time again. I think your 20s are a time to shed over and over again. And like you said, yes, I left Albuquerque with the intention of breaking some not so great habits and patterns and things that I saw for myself. It's a very small town mentality, and so it would have been so easy to just stay very comfortable in the hell that I knew, which was not going to lead me to what I wanted, but there was always this little voice in the back of my head that wanted something more. And I kind of allowed myself to chase that. And yeah, I mean, the version of me from 25 to 26 and 26 to 27 continues to be this different, more evolved self. Even 30 to 33, where I'm at now, is constantly growing. And like with that understanding that keeps happening, there's so much more trust in how I grow, which is a nice feeling. That evolution when you're younger feels so scary because transitional gray spaces are incredibly uncertain. And you're like, well, where am I going? I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm like getting pushed through the portal again and I don't know where I'm going to land. And now I'm like, oh, here we go. This is going to be really fun. I can't wait to see what comes next. You know, you get to sort of shift your perspective on it. And I think it's a beautiful thing to kind of grow and evolve and be different every year if you want to, or learn something new and really face the things that have given you strife or challenge before, and knowing that, the pain and the vulnerability in that is like ultimately like a superpower, to experience these really hard things. I think it just widens my scale of emotional capability. I can feel these really low lows, but I think the rebounds of joy have just gotten greater. Yes. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it's clearly informed so much of what you've brought to Peach Honey.
Yeah.
But just before we get to that, in terms of your relationship with your dad, mm-hmm. and you touched on therapy, and you've spoken previously of his alcoholism.
Yeah.
You also have touched on previously the fact that you arrived in LA with sort of $2 in your pocket, mm-hmm. and you needed to
and a lot of Forever 21 crop tops, and a hope and a dream,
So you've jumped straight into B2B sales, which is a pretty brutal, always be closing kind of culture.
Yeah.
So that would have been, I would imagine, quite confronting. And at the same time, you're still working through the trauma of your parents' divorce, mm-hmm. and what then followed in terms of your relationship with your dad. Give me a sense of what that looked like, sort of stage by stage, and at what point you decided to engage in therapy.
Yeah, so I've actually been in therapy since I was 16 years old, on and off, which, I think everyone should do to some degree. Nobody comes out of this world unscathed.
I agree.
And it's gone through a lot of different phases. I think the relationship of my father and I is ever evolving. And when, I was a lot younger with it, even though I was in therapy, and I had this desire to continue to heal myself because I was seeing the ways that the relationship with him and I, or just the traumas within my family and my growing up, was affecting my life. I was in a very boundaryless place with it. I still didn't know how to take a step back. I thought I was always very fearful of hurting my father's feelings. And so that resulted in me spending, when I'm finally making a little bit of money in this sales job in corporate America, traveling back and forth to Arizona all the time to visit him and take care of him when he was sick, and not really realizing the weight that was putting on me, and how that was holding me back from maybe some of the healing and growth that could have happened. And so when I was probably around like 26, 27 is when I really sort of drew a line in the sand that I wasn't going to go be there all the time. And I started to sort of speak up for myself. And it happened in these little moments to go, you know, you got to talk to somebody else about what you're struggling with, or, you know, why don't we find you some care through your health insurance or something, to where it wasn't all my responsibility. And once I was able to get that little bit of distance, I think that's when healing gets to come. It's hard to do it when you're still opening the wound over and over again, because you're so in the pain. And so once I was able to kind of set that distance, it allowed me to get to a place where I could have maybe a little bit of a tougher conversation with him. One of them was, you know, over a year ago now. He came to visit me and didn't really shy away from ever saying what he felt about my mom, which they haven't spoken since the divorce, so you can imagine it's not always the nicest thing. And I, for lack of a better term, kind of snapped. And I think all this years of therapy and investing in myself and really growing who I was as a person, finally felt confident enough to go, I'm not okay with that, and not be fearful of hurting his feelings, but to prioritize my own feelings for once. And it was hard and awful and a screaming match, and like, I was like, you gotta go, like, we gotta fly home. We're not gonna like go to the LACMA tomorrow after we just unearthed 15 years of trauma. But it was ultimately like so healing, and it just taught me this really valuable lesson to really speak up for myself and to say my truth. And I think that intrinsically, like you said, there's a lot of inspiration of what I've been through that comes into Peach Honey, and that conversation in that moment, whether it be, coincidence or not, was also sort of a pivotal moment of when Peach Honey started to really grow, and I really started to take the confidence in it and really start to go, no, I'm going to do this full time, and I'm really going to invest in this. And ultimately the conversation really resulted in my father and I really healing and coming to a new point of understanding and allowing me to forgive him, which was a thing that I struggled with for a long time. I just carried a lot of the pain with me of the little things that he did in the big moments. And forgiveness was incredibly powerful for both of us. You know, it allowed him to kind of take accountability for certain things that he wouldn't have before. And yeah, it gave me this newfound confidence that's just shown up in every aspect of my life now.
That's fantastic. I think that notion that the forgiveness, we misunderstand forgiveness. It's really for us.
Yeah.
It's to relieve that burden.
Yeah.
There's, I think, a hesitation to do it because people think it's for the other person, but it's really first and foremost for us.
Yeah, to really let go and go, well, it wasn't my fault. You know, I think I carried a lot of blame for a long time. That if I had just done this or, you know, whatever, but that I didn't do something to deserve this. And also he wasn't moving with the intention to hurt me. He just didn't know any better. And that was like a big turning point for us. So yeah, I think it's just shifted my perspective on my romantic relationships, on how I run this business, on, you know, kind of how I carry myself through the world. And it's been really powerful. So
I want to jump into that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to 6 or 7 years ago. You mentioned when that was really the period when you first started to establish better boundaries with your dad. It occurs to me that coincides with pre-COVID, just the start of COVID, which was the genesis of Peach Honey as you originally conceived it. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you originally approached the idea of Peach Honey and how it's evolved?
Yeah. I think I always had this little inkling that I wanted to do something for myself. I don't know if it was the entrepreneurial spirit, but you know, there was just something in me that was like, I don't enjoy working for other people. Like, what do you mean I have to sit at this desk 8 hours a day? And I also very much felt the ceiling of the financial potential of that. I didn't enjoy climbing a corporate ladder. It just didn't speak to me. And so that thread of curiosity sort of sparked bits of inspiration that evolved from sweatshirt and sweatpants company called Feels that we were going to do little branded sweatshirts, which looking back on it now would have crushed during COVID. It would have been great, but probably a little short-lived. And then actually finding inspiration from a partner of mine at the time that was like, hey, you really love CBD. Why don't you do something like with that? And I go, yeah, I do. And so that started as a CBD lotion brand, which I still hope to release down the line. But I
sort of beauty and cosmetics type of.
a little bit, but mostly around body care. I wanted to do a really yummy body lotion and like a body shimmer oil that just made you feel really good. I was when I really dug into the product development is actually when I broke up with that partner who had inspired me, and it was my first sober breakup. I had stopped drinking about a year before that, and wow, did alcohol help a lot in not feeling breakup feels before. And this time I was like, what are we doing? Like, I'm gonna paint my fireplace. So you really have to look in the mirror when you don't have a tequila soda to calm you down. So it allowed me to kind of dig into this idea of the business in the new way. And I remember staying home one night and I was taking a bath and I got out and I put lotion on and I was feeling really like just in my feminine element. I'm like, this is my place and I feel great and I'm single. And I started journaling. And it makes me all verklempt to think, but I told myself I love you for the first time and I meant it.
Aww.
Like I really felt this feeling of like, oh, this is what I felt for other people, but I feel it for myself. And at 26 to feel that for the first time was life-changing, and that was really the antithesis of like, oh, I felt really good connecting with my body. So I can bring in this body lotion that also has kind of this like relaxing element to it with the CBD, and hopefully the dream was that maybe I could create that moment for another woman or another person to like slow down and be with themselves and go, oh, I just love me. And so that is like that idea, that ethos is the origin for everything that we create, and it was the theme of the collection we did this last summer. But I wanted to have that moment, so it was this really important idea to me, and I'm making a deck, and I'm just going after investors, which I have no idea how to do. I dropped out of college and moved to LA. I'm amazed if it didn't have a spelling error in it at this point. And then I basically put in my 2 weeks at this real estate job that I was working, and my last day at the office was March 13th, 2020, a perfect time to be unemployed. Nothing could have gone wrong. The whole world shut down. And for the first time since I was like 16 years old, I wasn't working 40 hours a week. And I had this business plan that I had asked some very close friends and family to give me a little bit of money to help me kind of formulate these products and create this branding. And I had nowhere to go with it. I was like, the world does not need $60 body shimmer. Like, what am I gonna do? But another important ethos of Peach Honey is like, I got to slow down for the first time and really like just kind of sit and go, well, what do I wanna do today? And that calming was really nice, especially for someone who's kind of anxious by nature. To like sit still was really good. And in the midst of this sort of like transitional, what am I going to do next phase, my neighbor across the hallway, his name's Peter, he's so lovely. He's like old school guy that, still kind of slangs weed, which he's great. I don't know if that's allowed to be said, but I'm sure he's fine. And he introduced me to CBD flower. And at the time during COVID, I think a lot of us were understandably turning to some kind of substance to either cope or just feel relaxed, or maybe we're just bored. And I was smoking a lot more weed at the time, and getting a little paranoid and getting a little too high and like not finding where my face was when I was putting on face creams, but like loving the ritual of smoking a joint, and loving that kind of oral fixation moment. And so I got that and I was like, oh, CBD flower, like this is it. This is Peach Honey. This is what the world needs right now. This is my organic Xanax moment. This is the way that I can kind of bring this, what I call gooey energy, like the tagline is Get Gooey, as that's when they're like, how does it feel? What does CBD feel like? I'm like, you just kind of gooey. You just get to kind of round the edges. So that was like a pivotal point to discover that. And I microdosed mushrooms for the month and built my website in the day and just kind of turned it on its head and went, okay, we're going to do this. I didn't really know what I was doing or how to launch a product-based business, but I had these like really important pillars of wanting people to feel loved and seen, and having this like slow down ritual and maybe give someone an alternative who didn't want to be stoned or didn't want to have a glass of wine. And I just went, okay, we're going to go, and I just kind of pushed it out the door. So that was 5 years ago, which feels really crazy to think about.
It's a fantastic story.
Oh, nice.
I want to go back to help the uninitiated who may not be familiar with CBD.
Yeah.
So THC, the psychoactive aspect of cannabis, that's not what you do.
No, so THC comes from a marijuana plant, which is what is the psychoactive and smells a little bit stronger and hits a little bit harder. And CBD comes from a hemp-derived place or a plant, which is federally legal under some farm bill, and is the reason why I was able to run it out of my living room in the beginning, which turned my kitchen into a bit of a meatpacking district and may have gave me carpal tunnel, but that's fine. That's a problem for future Paizley. So it is a hemp-derived plant. We say getting gooey. It does not get you stoned, and I like to describe it as just sort of rounding the edges a little bit. There's not this really intense come-up feeling or even a notable tapering off. It's just for me, my anxiety really lives in my chest, and so if I'm having that moment and I can take one of our gummies or take a hit in a joint, it just kind of gives you that exhale and that moment to sort of like zoom out from maybe that anxious, limiting place that your head's stuck in, but not in a way that really alters your state of consciousness.
And I think that's the key point for me that people who haven't experienced CBD may not appreciate, that you're not high, but you're getting this really nice, chilled, relaxed feeling. And it's legal, it doesn't interfere with driving, you can go about your normal day. It really is nature's Xanax.
I got a lot of moms that are still taking care of their kids just fine, that just need a little bit of relief. And I think there's something really powerful about there's so much going on in the world, and it's okay if we need a little bit of help. And it's also really easy to find something to cope with that can ultimately become sort of dependable, or maybe invert like a bit of a negative effect at the end of the day. If I have too much wine one night, I feel it the next morning, but I can smoke 3 CBD joints and it's not going to hurt me. I'm fine. Maybe I'm a little tired, but we're going to make it. So I like having something that just it gives us a little bit of help, in a world that feels a little overwhelming most of the time. Now.
Absolutely. And the Get Gooey tagline, which is I love as well. And it occurs to me that your life experience, the trauma that you experienced growing up, the way that you have processed that through therapy, experimentation with various forms of self-medication, some less optimal than others, and then landing on CBD as the ideal tonic, I guess, to that kind of anxiety that we all feel. Where I'm getting to is that you're bringing your authentic self to the brand in a way that I think everyone talks about but is rarely seen. How do you feel about the way that you are creating community and building brand and bringing your entire self to it? How do you feel about that composite?
Yeah, well, it's my greatest joy. It is the coolest part about this business, and admittedly, bringing my authentic and vulnerable self to it is really kind of all that I know. Not having a traditional entrepreneurial background of going to school for business or what have you, I didn't know any other way other than to just show up as the little goo ball that I am. And some days I've got it figured out, and other days I don't. And so to have that kind of conversation, especially this year as my online community has grown and the business has grown, to continue to amplify that and feel very seen in it is just an amazing piece of validation and reassurance, because the first couple years of it, it's the brand is me, but it's very like Bambi legs, it's like you're just kind of finding your way through, like, this is me, but also I'm talking about joints, and how do I convey to you that this is a safe joint to smoke and you're not going to get stoned? And so you're kind of fumbling around a bit and throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks. And as it continues to grow and you get the product reviews from the girls that say, this just helped me so much with my anxiety, or I've been trying to stop drinking and this gives me that, little bit of rounding of the edges that I needed to go be out on the weekend with my friends. And you get those little pieces and you get to keep putting them together and go, okay, I'm doing something right, and I just always wanted to chase that. The success of the business financially this year is obviously really nice and really fun, but it doesn't bring me to tears in the way that when I get a very heartfelt email from a customer that's like, this has changed my life, I've been in pain for years and I've never been able to find something, and this really helps. And that sense of community is invaluable to me, and something that I really cherish, and I hope to continue to give back to and continue to grow and evolve and feel like really connected to. So it's really special. really grateful for it.
And I'd love to talk a little bit about the journey from conception, launch, and that kind of messy middle that a lot of people don't talk about between startup and scale up.
Yeah.
And you've spoken candidly and openly, and I applaud that because I don't think enough people do, with your community around the various challenges that you have successfully ultimately navigated. But when you're right in the middle of it, it can feel pretty challenging. Just in terms of navigating for entrepreneurs out there, I'm thinking particularly young women, but obviously not exclusively young women, who want to emulate you, that follow you and are incredibly impressed by what you've achieved. And they would love to do what you did, which is just do it, just launch. But I think for a lot of people, that's really hard.
Sure.
You know, they get a little bit stuck up here, and the inevitable, what about money and what about cash flow and where am I going to house it, and et cetera, et cetera. It would be great, I think, to hear from you, having navigated that period now and it's in your rearview mirror. Could you speak to a couple of the challenges and how you would advise someone, a younger Paizley, maybe back in whatever, you know, what would it, just before COVID?
Yeah.
How would you think about prepping for it if you knew then what you know now?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing about going through the door is you don't have to have it all figured out. So, and you won't. And the mistakes and stressful moments and mishaps that happen along the way are kind of the fun of it. And that's how you sort of learn and evolve the brand. And the other big piece, I think, is it's okay to start small. It's okay to just, I started with one product. I started with this box of joints, and then eventually we grew it into like a little bag of joints. But I think there's this perception, especially with, you know, social media, like a lot of my followers now, they just see me at this really big moment, which is so cool. And I'm so glad they're all there. I love that they're all here. But, you know, this brand started with maybe a pound or two of flour at the time and maybe doing 3 orders a day. And some months we would do, you know, hardly any, and other months would be a little bit better. But that it's okay that it's really small, and it's okay that it becomes these little building blocks. And you can like watch it evolve from there. I think you feel pressure to do this really big thing out the gate, and that it has to be, you know, perfect, and that's the only way it'll succeed. And it doesn't have to be, to kind of trust in yourself in that. And then I think, you know, the other component is finding what you really love and feels really closely aligned to you. You know, you kind of mentioned emulating me, which is amazing, and I couldn't believe that anybody would want to do that in this world, and I'm honored when girls, you know, reach out and say things like that. But there's so many amazing creators and businesses and people out there that it's very easy to emulate, because you see this path of success, you see the algorithm favoring them, you see their sales going up, and so you're like, oh, well, if I just do that, it'll work. But if it's not authentic to who you are, if you're not adding who your actual self is into it and what you really want, you're just kind of trying to copy paste what somebody else does, it's not going to work, because you're always kind of playing this game of catch up, and you're always sort of in a position where you're not problem solving for yourself. And I think it's really important to know what it is that you love and you want to bring into this world, and be intentional about it, and not just, I think especially with creator culture now, I see a lot of people are like, well, I see that it's a really successful way to live, and so I guess I'll just like make content. And I'll always go, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do with it? What's your goal? Like, what's the end goal there? And if you don't really have that in mind, which is okay if you don't, you can kind of go on a bit of journey. But I think finding out like what your purpose is that aligns with your most authentic self is crucial. Because anybody could, you know, go on TikTok shop and probably sell a bunch of sweatshirts and make a good check, and I support you on that journey, and I love that. But if, you know, being an entrepreneur and starting a brand that feels important to you is the big dream, like really have an understanding of what it is you want to put out there. And it's okay if that evolves and changes over the years. But it has to, I think, you know, coming from the heart is a really big piece of it.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think that is, in fact, the superpower of yours that I'm most interested in unpacking, because you have synthesized and alchemized your life experience in a really interesting way. You've brought it all to the brand, which makes you feel enormously relatable. But what you're doing is still very aspirational, which is that old cliche in branding, which is just a fantastic place to be. But you're doing it authentically and organically. And I think your point about be clear on what it is you want to do and have some real conviction around why it is important, why the audience should care. For 2 obvious reasons. One, of course, the audience needs to engage. But secondly, for you, this thing's hard. There's going to be lots of bumps along the way. And if you're not authentically committed to it and feel real conviction around how important it is, you're not going to persevere. So I think that is fantastic advice. I just want to bottle that up and share it.
Thank you.
The other thing that I've heard you speak to previously that I think is really important is you've spoken to this idea of you feeling worthy and that translating into you wanting to charge appropriately for what you do. And I think that's a really difficult thing for a lot of people when they first get started. They don't necessarily value themselves and what they're offering high enough, and they end up coming in and competing on price rather than saying, no, this is a great brand and it stands for something really important and I want to succeed, so I need to price it appropriately. Yeah. How do you think about that?
The pricing element of it, I've been able to sort of expand in range over the years. And I think admittedly, when I first started, I wanted this to feel like a luxury brand. I wanted this to feel high end, and maybe that was probably where I was at aspirationally in my life. I wasn't making a ton of money, but I know I think women are often shamed for desiring money and desiring like a nice lifestyle that came from their own making. And so I never wanted to shy away from that. And I'm a big dress for the job you want kind of gal. And so, I knew I wanted it to feel like a luxury brand. I knew I wanted it to feel like a really high-end experience, but not in a way that became exclusatory of anybody. I still wanted it to feel accessible, but in tandem with the idea that the ethos of the brand is creating loving rituals for yourself. It's okay if those rituals feel really nice. Like, yes, we have to do the hard work and go to therapy, and not every day is going to slap. But if you have a moment where you can feel like you're doing something really lovely for yourself, and it doesn't have to be something that breaks the bank or a full spa day, but a pack of joints that is $38 and you get to feel kind of luxurious for a second. That's what I wanted to create for people. And so I hope to kind of carry that into our holiday collection that's coming out, and a part of another very big brand messaging, which is it's called Lucky You, and the message is my presence is a present. And so really cherishing your energy, and that, being kind of overly indulgent. I think a lot of people see in my marketing and the photo shoots that I do that I kind of go over the top. We'll be in big gowns and fun outfits, and they're very playful, and there's an element of nostalgia to them. And to let women, and specifically, the guys can come too, they can buy it. But this is really for the girlies, to know that it's okay to really indulge in yourself, and it's okay to be loud, and it's okay to take up space, and to want to get really dressed up, and to really celebrate that and honor that in yourself. And so if my little box of joints or a little pack of gummies in your purse is a reminder for that, I'm really proud to be that for somebody. And I hope that the dollar amount makes sense for them along the way.
I think it's excellent value.
Thank you.
In terms of the content creation, and you spoke to the content creators that approach you and want advice, and your advice is very clear around be clear on your intent.
Yeah.
What is it that you're trying to achieve? And that I mentioned previously that needs to stand for something that ultimately the audience obviously want to engage in as well. In terms of resilience, as a content creator, you're putting yourself out there day in, day out. I think it's incredible the way you do it. And I know for a lot of people, myself included, it's completely terrifying. So if you had some advice to offer someone who was perhaps fearful around, cancel culture is one extreme, but just the hostility, that is so common online. How do you think about your resilience with the content that you're creating and the exposure that ends up giving you?
Yeah, I think the confidence in it has grown as I've grown. I will be the first to admit that, when I first started posting online, which I've always done in some fashion, there was still a lot of shame around it, and sort of this coyness that I felt I couldn't really take ownership of it in the way that I very secretly wanted to. I've never shied away from a camera. I have a very healthy admiration for attention, and it took me a long time to admit that. And I think, again, women in particular are shamed for desiring that. And so I would post a video and it would do well, and people like, oh, that's so great. Are you your content creator? And I go, oh no, I don't think so. I just like posting videos, but deep down I'm like, no, this is awesome. And I love it. And so I think, the evolution of self and the self-love and the confidence came with finally admitting that I love doing this. And so I think kind of if it's something that you really love doing, it doesn't matter how well it performs. You just have to do what feels really good, and you're allowed to like take ownership over it and say that, you know, this is something that you really want. I will again attribute a lot of my success to a lot of really wonderful female friendships around me that have been so supportive and have loved me as my most authentic self. And that like in-person intimate moment permission allows me to feel that confidence, you know, through a camera or through TikTok. And at the very beginning of the year, I spent New Year's Eve in Idlewild with my two best girlfriends, and it was a really special moment. And there was a lot of wine, and it was really great. But we sat there on New Year's, and we all said, like, what do we want this year? And I finally was like, I want it all. Like, I want the fame on TikTok. I want my business to be successful. I'm ready to make a lot of money. You know, I'm ready to do it. And I finally like spoke into existence, and it just really allowed me to put 2 feet on the ground. So if there's something, you know, as a potential content creator, business owner that you're really desiring, don't be afraid to say it with your chest. I think it's okay to take ownership of it. I think, again, especially for women, to feel kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to, you know, I don't feel qualified for that yet. I don't know if it's right for me. Like, if you want it, it's okay to like really like go after it and say it proudly. Yeah, you know?
Well, that's a great message.
Thanks.
I love it. I want my daughter to hear it.
Oh, good. I'll call her. I love it. Great.
Let's pivot slightly to other areas that I think are perhaps intimidating to the aspiring entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You've succeeded at, let's assume this theoretical Paizley many years ago, because you're now well beyond this, but you succeeded in launching. Yeah. You've got some degree of product market fit. The brand is resonating and the community's starting to get really engaged. You're now at the point where you're starting to you need to step into a role as a leader, because you're going to soon have a team around you. How do you think about, you're so self-aware and you're so warm, you're also very clearly ambitious and very driven. How do you think about assuming that mantle of CEO and, you know, bringing on a team and leading that team?
Yeah, well, it was an exciting one and a bit of a nerve-wracking one. I think the way that I've chosen to lead as a CEO, which still feels like a crazy little thing to say, but it's very fun, is as like humanly as I can. You know, as much as I can be candid and open with people. I think that was part of the thing that I really struggled with in corporate America, and what ultimately really turned me off to it. There was so much unspoken politics of corporate life and a hierarchical structure that I really subscribe to, and this idea that we're all just people working together, and how do I make sure that you feel safe and supported, because then you'll do the same for me, is really like my leading force. So I'm so grateful that I've reached the point that I could bring on a team, because entrepreneurial work is, albeit a bit lonely one, and there's a lot of me just staring in the mirror with my dog going, okay, we can do this today, like we're gonna do it. And now that I can look to women on my team and do that with them and feel supported and have new ideas come in is really exciting. I think one thing that was interesting about the transition of that is this whole brand has just been me in my head, and so now communicating that to everybody else and making sure that they know what's coming up in the pipeline for product drops, or where we're sort of steering as a brand, or if there's an event happening, that communication to everybody has been really important, and something that I've really enjoyed, and something that I will constantly in meetings with either my email marketing girl or my inventory manager go, I'm so sorry, I know that was in my head and I haven't told you yet, so here's what's in my brain. So that's been a really fun, shift in what's been happening, and also in things that have gone wrong. I think anybody in a product-based business that moves to a third-party packing and logistics company will tell you it is a hell they wish on no one, after building something that is such an intimate brand and such an extension of me that I had the utmost control over, and then to ship an entire business worth of inventory to a place that I don't get to see every day, and I don't know how things are being packaged and sent out, was like a huge exercise in surrendering and in trust, and a lot of phone calls going, hey, why are they putting the stickers on that side of the box? Like, that's not where they go. So being able to be maybe a little bit tougher in instances and in conversations that I wouldn't have otherwise. But even in those moments, I want to lead with what feels important to me. I don't think I'm going to get anything done by just yelling and scolding people. So, I just had a meeting with my 3PL team, and there was a lot of mistakes that have been happening that were costing me money and causing a bad experience for the customer. And I think it would have been really easy for me to get on the phone and just yell at them, and probably would have felt kind of good. But I instead just kind of took a step back, and I went, okay, these are people too, and I know their business is going through growing pains, and I just try to connect with who's going to be the new manager that oversees, and went, hey, I'm not just some influencer that created like a whatever product. Like, this is my child, and this is something I care very deeply about, and what do you need from me to support you to make sure that this goes smoothly for the holidays so that we can all continue to grow together? And because this business, hopefully, knock on wood, is just going to get bigger and better. And I'd rather invest in good people that I trust and have around me and feel connected to have that growth with me. And so, I just try to lead with a lot of love and kindness, as I've worked with a lot of people who don't, and it doesn't make people feel good, and I don't think it brings out the best selves. And if I can make someone feel loved and supportive, they're going to be more creative, they're going to be more excited to show up to work and be a part of what we're building. I want people to feel a part of this. So that's been really special to kind of to do with people, which is really fun. Yeah.
That's awesome, and I think you've touched on something really important that is close to my heart. That notion that in that startup to scale up stage, you are bringing on people internally, but you've got a lot of third-party partners that are mission critical to the business. And I think so many founders make the mistake of treating their internal team differently to those parties that are mission critical, but they just happen to work in another business. Yeah. But uniting them under your higher purpose, you've got such a clear North Star, so that everyone can rally around it, and you get a sense of your culture extending throughout your ecosystem, not just inside the four walls of your business. That's a huge opportunity. There's one other thing that I thought was really interesting in terms of the way that you have built the brand, as face of the brand, as personality of the brand, and bringing your life experience really, and how you've solved for some of your own challenges and offering it as a kind of a gift to your community. In terms of separating out, well, first I should ask the question, is there a separation? Like, do you think of Paizley as in any way separate to Peach Honey, or do you see them as two sides of the same coin?
I think at this point in time, there's not a lot of differentiation, for better or for worse, we'll find out. But I think we're so intrinsically linked, and I think people can feel that through what we're doing. And I feel like I'm creating products and collections and moments and things for our community that would be what I want and what I would want to experience with my 4 closest girlfriends. And so how do I make that girl group feel like all of us? And so I think for right now at least, it is just so me through the brand, and it's a lot more fun that way. I don't overly objectify the brand in that way. So that feels really nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So I want to shift gears slightly now. Sure. to speak more to how you top up your well. Like, you are so prolific in terms of your creative content, and you are working so hard and hustling to build this brand into everything it can and should be. I'd love to get a sense of how do you kind of take care of you? So in addition, you've touched on CBD, obviously, and everything Peach Honey related. What else do you do to keep your creative well topped and your energetic well topped? Yeah,
well, I think it's all about balance. I'm doing something incredibly ambitious and that requires a lot of time and energy this year. And there's some days where I'm working 14 hours and it's all really exciting, but I so recognize that, like you said, the life experience, the world outside of Peach Honey influences what I'm able to create. And I think, having a life well lived and celebrating the wins along the way is so important to me. And so, I'll always make time to go on trips with friends and go out on the weekends and have a nice dinner. And it fuels me, because of course it's nice to be able to go out to nice dinner and pay for that and not have to worry about it. But I draw inspiration from it. I get to go have these moments where I go, oh, that would be really fun, for a piece or a collection. Or even last night I get to go have this wonderful dinner in New York with, my publicist, who's a dear friend of mine, and other fellow.
She's sitting right there.
Oh yeah, my girl Lauren here. I was like, I don't know if I can look off camera, but I'm so glad she's here. But we get to go have this really fun night to like go see Broadway, and we got to collaborate with one another and come up with like a super fun idea for Valentine's Day, and those moments are so important to me. And I think feel like these little things that you're going to look back on and go, oh my God, remember when we thought about that in New York at dinner? Like, I'm just such a romanticizer of life, and nostalgia is my favorite emotion in the world. And so I want things to feel big and exciting. And if that means maybe I skimp on a few hours of sleep here and there, fine, worth it, but I want to experience it all. I don't want to limit myself. And I think I've been able to kind of pour myself into a lot of different facets, which is sometimes tiring, but also incredibly energizing, because it just brings me so much joy. So I do that, and then I also, try to come back to my routine, take really good care of myself. I'm someone who has to work out most of the time, or else I go a little cuckoo. And also honor the slowdown, which is the whole point of Peach Honey. But to take time to take pause and know it's okay, although I may go a bit stir crazy in the moments I know that I need it. So I think it's all about like really seeking balance and trusting what feels really good. And listening to that intuition and going, okay, this weekend I need this, but this weekend I need that, and I'm going to honor both of those things, and neither are wrong. It just is, and that's okay. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And you've spoken previously, and just speaking of like a balanced life, mm-hmm. You've spoken previously about some of the challenges dating in LA, and I watched a podcast, a couple of podcasts actually, one of your own, where you're speaking to that. And I think this is another question for many successful women, mm-hmm. whether they are starting out as an entrepreneur, or friends of mine who are further advanced in their career and a little bit more mature. I don't think they'll appreciate me saying that, but you know what I mean. just a little more time on the air.
Yeah, they're doing great.
I think that it is something that many women struggle with, that as they become more successful and they fully realize their own potential and see their ambition manifested in something extraordinary, there is, to some men, that's intimidating. And I know you've got a really interesting take on this. I just wanted mm-hmm. to hear it for myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I think it's just an unfortunate societal side effect of like the world that we're in right now, and call it the patriarchy, call it whatever, but I think it's really interesting that we never ask a man when he reaches success, well, are you having a hard time dating? Mm. Is this hard for you?
So true.
Are people mad that you're so successful? But I have experienced it a little bit with reaching a level of success that I have, that you're hopeful that, I remember being younger and thinking, well, if I just had it all figured out, then, a guy would go, oh yeah, great. Because all I want at the end of the day, I don't care how much money you make or what you're doing, is for someone to go, that's my girl.
Yeah.
Do the Will Smith moment. Don't slap anybody, but just go like this, and next, and just be in someone's corner and just be a cheerleader. Like, that's how I would be to anyone that is a successful partner in my life or a successful friend. And so I think it's unfortunate that whatever kind of like primal need of like man to be a provider hasn't quite evolved to the fact that women are at a time in their life where we don't need them. We just want them to be there, and that should hopefully take the pressure off of you a little bit. But I think there's still this instinct of them that feels inferior about it in some way. And I never want to put that on anybody. And I hate that in some ways I'm overly cautious of it. Where I was like, oh, I won't pick up the tab for dinner because I don't want to make them feel bad, but because I had to learn that the hard way, but I just think it's a shame that it's not easier. You would think it'd be easier. Like, this girl's really successful, and somehow that's an inflection on you, or like a hardship for you to take on as a man. It doesn't really compute to me, but I'm hopeful he's out there. And if he isn't, whatever. I think the prize for me right now, there's this Vogue article that's out right now that's like embarrassing to have a boyfriend, and maybe some of them are like, that's not the main narrative I subscribe to, but she said something like, we finally live in a day and age where the prize is not a man, because even up until the 70s you couldn't get a credit card without your husband's approval, which would not do well for me in my relationship to my Amex right now. But the prize is not a man. For me right now, the prize is generational wealth. The prize is like, I'm going to make sure if I have kids, they're set. I'm going to make sure that I've sort of broken the trauma that, my dad didn't have a great relationship with money. Let me be something bigger than that. And if there's a man alongside for that can be in my corner and be supportive of it, great. And if not,
so be it.
His loss.
So be it. So be it.
And
I think it's kind of really ironic that you made the point beautifully that there is no obligation. You don't need a man financially.
No.
And therefore, it's a choice, and that's romantic.
Yeah.
So I kind of think it's so much. I think it's liberating to be able to focus on the romance and the intimacy, and it's not a transaction of provision.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel that wholeheartedly. There's my favorite share moment of all time as this interviewer asking her, like, well, you think men are important? And she goes, like, for what? And it's like, she loves them, you think they're the coolest, but you don't need them to live. And then she says like the most iconic quote that I'll get tattooed on my forehead one day, which is her mom says, honey, one day you should settle down and marry a rich man. And she says, Mom, I am a rich man. And I live by that every morning. I think it feels, it's definitely shifted my perspective on how I date. And I admittedly at a very young age dated older, wealthier men that I felt a lot of anxiety that I couldn't quite understand why, and it was because I was dependent on them in some way, or I could see that I would become dependent on them in some way. And I've had partners as I got older, sort of imply that, oh, it's okay, you don't need to focus on peach honey, like I'll take care of you. And I was like, nothing sounds scarier than to not have my own sense of autonomy. At least for me. There's plenty of women out there who are in relationships like that and very happy, and I support them on their journey. But for me, I just never wanted to be dependent on somebody. So you had to look at someone as like, well, who are you as a person, and what's your character like, and am I going to feel supported by you, or are you going to feel intimidated by the life that I'm living and the schedule that I'm running and the money that I'm making? That is very empowering and fun. It's a little bit more fun.
Speaking to intuition, as we sit here in Laura Day's loft space, the world's most renowned intuitive, I just want to drill on this just a little bit further. A lot of people, I think, struggle with identifying, is this intuition or is it anxiety, or vice versa, and separating kind of true signal from sensation. How do you approach that? You said you trusted your intuition inherently. Yeah. How do you know it's intuition?
I think it's an ever-evolving thing. I've never completely solved it. I really present as this incredibly confident person, which I am, but I am still dealing with anxiety on a day-to-day basis, and it'll show up in a lot of different ways. I've been a very self-admitted anxious attacher, and so there can be little moments where I feel like maybe I'm dating somebody and the energy shifts and I feel that anxiety take over, and my brain can often be quite critical in that. And so I think the biggest distinction that I've learned between what's anxiety and intuition, aside from like a very distinct feeling in my body, anxiety is quite clenching and feels limiting, and like there's sort of walls around me a bit that don't allow me to zoom out and see big picture or really exhale, as where intuition feels propelling and exciting and hopeful, and really being able to kind of mentally walk myself back in those moments of anxiety that I know are going to take me down a weird spiral of, I know that this has never been true. The mean thoughts in my head have never been real. And I have so many loving, supportive people around me that I'm really grateful that I can call and lean on and be really honest to go, hey, I'm kind of having a hippie freak out moment. Here's what's going on. And they're like, yeah, Paige, well, here's this, and this. And I go, oh, why didn't I think of that? So I think community is incredibly important in those moments to kind of talk through, and knowing what, feels good in your body. I think women are really taught to ignore what is like swaying either way. And I'm someone in relationships whose anxious attachment style will show up and can escalate to like a stress-induced paranoia, and can see one little thread of evidence and turn it into this whole narrative that feels so real. Like in my mind, I'm like, you just left because you're gonna go meet up with some girl and you hate me. And then they come back and they're like, I was getting you a parking pass. And I was like, oh, yeah, duh, sorry. So I think having a lot of trust in yourself, I think especially for my anxiety and my anxious attachment style, is a lot of fear of abandonment. And I heard something once that it is you're so afraid of being left that you sort of abandon yourself. And really coming back to who I know that I am and the things that are true in my world and the people that love me is kind of this like walk back from. And then suddenly my body feels better and suddenly I can see the world a bit more clearly, and that's when I know I'm kind of back on the right intuitive path.
Back on track.
Yeah.
And that process of self-regulation, which you've spoken about in the past and you've just articulated beautifully, it strikes me, what's an example of a decision you've made in the last 12 months that only the better regulated Paizley could have made?
Yeah, I think there's, I will admit that I think the biggest challenge for my anxiety is always going to be relationships. And I think this last year, albeit very few, there were a few potential dates, things to explore that were indicative of old patterns of mine and triggering of those anxieties, and making the choice in those moments to choose me and what I know I deserve over what probably past Paizley and unregulated Paizley would have done, which is make myself smaller and make sure they feel okay, because I would rather just keep this than feel the loss of it. And sometimes it's not as fun, and I would rather that thing work out, but choosing me over a potential romantic partner who is not treating me in the way that I deserve, and not letting those anxieties kind of take hold to go, okay, well, we can just do this and this, because it's a very easy game to play, to like make yourself small and accommodate something like that. So, and every time I've chosen me over, something that maybe feels good in the moment but is not ultimately the best for me, things take off again. I'm very woo-woo girl in the sense of the energies of it all, where I'm like, I'm spending too much time for this person and it's taking away from this, and I can tell that this is getting affected. Whether that's real or not, I don't know. But I think choosing yourself over and over again is a big sign of that regulation over the anxiety that would often steer the ship before.
And the heart and soul of Peach Honey.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all I'm trying to do is just give that, to everybody else, and hopefully serve as an inspiration, and also be very honest with everybody that I don't always get it right. I will still have anxiety. I will still have moments that are hard. I maybe will make the wrong choice here and there, and that the grace and patience with yourself is the whole point, and that it's okay to have all of that, it's the whole spectrum,
I was talking to Steph last night about what I was so excited to talk to you about, which kind of brings me to one of those topics, is what's next.
Yeah.
Because it seems to me, and we were touching on this before we started, that you have built the foundation of something that could and should, and I'm sure will be, truly extraordinary. The promise of Get Gooey and the ritual of self-care, self-love, the little things we do each day to self-regulate and center and ground. I mean, that is just such an important meta trend. So for you, when you think about what's next, sometimes when you're spoilt for choice, it even makes it a little bit harder, because there's so many different things you could do. How do you assess different opportunities and determine whether they are on brand for you and on brand for Peach Honey, or whether they're perhaps just commercial ideas that people are bouncing off you because they want to make a buck? Like, what's your filter?
Yeah, I think my own instinct has just been my greatest, North Star in that. As like you said, with this kind of success this year, there's a lot of different people that are showing up in my inbox, and some are well intended, and others are maybe have their eyes on a different prize with the potential of working with me and the brand. And I think I am really grateful that I've really listened to my intuition. It's so in my heart space, and I can feel almost instantly with something, this feels right and this doesn't, and I just keep listening to that. And I think the benefit of building this brand myself and being so intrinsically linked to it, is I just keep following what I really love. So this holiday collection, to continue this message of like women empowerment and giving them pieces that serve as a reminder to really cherish themselves and their energy. And so, I just want to keep leaning into what that energy is. I never want to look at the business or any opportunity, whether it's an event or a partnership or a product that we can launch, with the intention of like, well, what's going to sell the best? I want it to feel indicative of this community that we've created, and this feeling of connectiveness and girl power and self-love and a little bit of luxury and a little bit of like ostentatious energy is really exciting for me. So I think if I just keep following that, it's a very one foot in front of the other that is starting to get bigger and big picture. When I look at especially 2026 and what's to come, I can go, okay, I know this really works, and I know for spring I really want it to look like this, and Valentine's Day, let's do a girls' weekend, and I can kind of start to pull from that, but it always comes from a place of intuition and what feels like, well, what would I want first? And maybe that's a bit selfish, but I want a new bathrobe, so let's make these girls new bathrobes. Let's do something really cute and fun, and that's where a lot of creative and inspiration comes from as well. So I just keep chasing that little fun, joyous voice.
And I just saw you just did a pop-up in LA.
Yeah.
So that sort of brings the retail discussion to mind. Brands like yours, the opportunity to bring your promise to life in the three dimensions of a retail space is always super exciting to me. There's only so much that we can do digitally, and there's a lot we can do digitally, but there's another dimension when you're looking at retail. So talk to me about the pop-up and whether it has that kind of sparked some enthusiasm to explore retail down the line for you. How do you feel about retail?
Yeah, well, it's I think an untouched world of my business right now, and one that I'd love to kind of spin the plate on a bit more, because even though this year has been amazing, largely in part to the success of my TikTok page, people like my bangs and think I'm funny, and now we're selling more products. But I understand that is can be a bit fickle, and who knows if they just pull the plug on it tomorrow, what am I going to do? So I think investing in a team and in opportunities that will allow the business to be successful outside of somebody liking a TikTok video is crucial to us continuing this growth. And so something like a pop-up in the retail space, like a coffee shop, we brought our products, the drops, to have CBD lattes and kind of this soft girl Sunday, gooey little flower shop vibe is really fun to experience. And I think kind of the creative angle that we have to take with something like this CBD business, the immediate and sort of already existing route is probably in about 15 retailers. We've got our little joints and gift shops. We were in a motel mini bar for a little while. We've had like a lot of fun little things, but you have to get really creative with it because these are little boxes and little joints, and it's still a bit of a world that maybe feels to some oversaturated and to some incredibly foreign. And so how do I stand out to a consumer in the world that may be walking in and won't pick us up off the shelf, but maybe it is more coffee shops where you can taste and experience firsthand, or maybe the hotels that are a little bit more kooky and fun that like want to have joints in them. So I think it's a you could look at it as a challenge or like a really unique opportunity to have people experience our products in really fun ways and not just a traditional on the shelf kind of experience. So yeah, I think between Lauren and I, we've got a lot of very fun ideas this next year on how we can continue to bring this like very online world IRL and have people experience this firsthand and really feel that moment of connection with one another and hopefully fall in love with the products along the way.
I think with your brand energy, the way that you're developing the assortment and the brand promise, I see your own retail locations.
Oh yeah, brick and mortar be fun.
It would be so
something
fun.
Really squishy and fun. Who knows, but it's going to be comfy and cute.
So the side hustle to, this is a startup that requires my full-time attention. What were you looking at? Was it purely financial, that it had hit a run rate where you could replace your salary? Was it more about, hey, the brand's landed, people get it? or did the audience get to a certain size? What metrics were you looking at?
Yeah, I think primarily the audience's connection with me and communication with me was like that. As someone who again doesn't have a traditional business background and maybe didn't know how to look at the numbers to go, okay, yeah, this has potential to hit this in 6 months. I didn't know how to really analyze that, but I did know I was getting more and more reviews that said, well, this is amazing, and I really love this. And when I would have these little moments on TikTok, which were ultimately part of the reason why I left corporate, I was having this success on TikTok, and I don't think they were thrilled about it. And that's their journey. But every time I would have a video do really well, I would see this huge spike in sales. And those started to become not just big jumps, but a big jump and then tapering off at a better baseline. Yeah, higher level every single time. And so I was like, okay, I think we can really do this. Now, was the business making enough money for me to live off of it? No, I'm expensive, and I know that. And so I was like, we're not going to be okay, but I was fortunate.
Did I mention you were self-aware?
Maybe. I know who I am, and that's okay. I'm the one maintaining it. So yeah, I was thankful to leave that corporate job with this little bit of severance that felt like this little bit of cushion to know, okay, I'm making a tiny bit of money off of TikTok rewards creator program, and I've got this income from the business that's starting to grow a little bit, and now I've got this little bit of capital. I really want to know what happens if I just give this everything. If I give this my whole self and there's no other brands or companies distracting me, and I really do what I set out to do, which is like make this a really big and successful thing. And so that year I started to see it slowly trickle up. I think at the end of the year I probably ended 1 month at like $7,000 in sales, and I was like, oh, okay, that felt really good. And then in January we did 9,000. In February we did probably 14. March I did 37,000 in 1 month, and then April I ended at 106,000 in 1 month.
That's nice growth.
It was really cool, and I was still packing all the orders myself, thanks to me and my wonderful mother, like throwing gummies in a tin and getting things out the door. And that was also the first time that, with these videos that are kind of going viral, people, as you get bigger, engage with you in a new way, and you get to have more of a conversation with your audience, and they really took an interest in who I was as a business owner. And I would share videos of me crying because we sold out the Gooey bag in one day, and it felt so incredible and like this really little weird niche pocket of the internet where everyone was just cheering you on and really wanted to see you win, which I think is something we don't really see online. We're so quick to cut each other down. And so to feel like I had this little, group of people going, you could do it, this is so great, we're so happy for you, and having those moments where I was also like, I can't get off the floor, I'm so tired, and this is really hard, and then going, take a break, queen, we've got you. Like I formed this really cool, online community with people that just gave me more confidence and gave me more drive to not want to let them down. And we've continued to grow. The month of September we did 189,000 in 1 month.
Fantastic.
And knock
Congrats.
on wood, we're really hopeful, but as of now we're on track to do $1 million in sales this year. And last year I think we did 37,000 in the whole year.
That is fantastic.
So it felt really exciting, and also a little scary, to expand that quickly. And you really want to meet the moment. You want to make sure that you can rise to the occasion and hold onto the rocket ship a little bit. So sometimes that keeps me up at night, and sometimes that makes me feel really excited. And that's just kind of the duality of it. And I'm really grateful that I get to be really honest and share that with people online. It's fun.
Your posts about the highs and the lows, I recall the post when you had that breakthrough month and you were very emotional, and I was watching it getting emotional. It was one of the first posts that my wife showed me, and I was like, this is fantastic, because, and looking at the comments, they were so supportive. I mean, there was such delight in your audience at your success, and it's really inspiring. I agree with you. And you're run rating a lot more than $1 million. So it'll be $1 million cumulative, but the growth is like this. So you're already run rating multiple millions. If we look back just for a second, because I then want to look forward, if we look back for just a second, what were the key challenges that you are proudest of in terms of overcoming this year?
Well, I think that month of April, getting 2,500 orders out the door myself was huge. I was still also producing the joints myself, so I'm really proud that my hands didn't fall off.
You were rolling the joints?
Well, we have machinery, but it's a lot of this
a lot of
and then
tapping
this
in
and
with those nails.
Yeah, well, there's nothing they can't do. You know, I think overcoming that month and making sure everything got out the door, really managing a lot of communication, because inevitably with that level of growth, there was significant delay in people getting orders. I'm really proud to say we maybe only had 1 or 2 being canceled. One of the big moments in that time was USPS decided to seize probably about 300 orders that I had gotten out the door, and like not tell me where they were or if I was going to get them back. And that was a really stressful time. And then also a very fun, honest moment with my community going, hey, I don't know where they are, and that's okay, and I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm fine. And so I think, overcoming those moments that I think I could have just gone, oh, never mind, this is too much, I don't want to do this anymore. I never wanted to steer away from it. So I think pushing through that, the transition to the third-party packing and logistics company was a really big decision. And a bit of a bittersweet feeling to know that I've hit this point of growth, that it leaves my house and I've got a kitchen table again and there's not boxes everywhere, which is really nice. But also, it's a moment of grief. You lose this little personal touch where each girl or somebody that orders something knows that it came from me personally, which is why with the Club Gooey membership jackets, I'm actually gonna I'll be shipping them all from Los Angeles. Each girl can embroider their name on them, and then I'll have a handwritten note from myself for every single one, just to really thank them. Oh, I get all emotional thinking about it.
That's
but
fantastic.
Yes, all the comments are really supportive, even when the times are challenging, and to know that these complete strangers are so in my corner and so supportive. Even when people run into me in person, they're like, just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, oh, you really like it. Is just, I don't know, it feels like there's something special with it, and I hope I can one day do something really impactful with it and really make differences in people's lives. And I've kicked around some philanthropic ideas that I hope to grow to one day, but I'm so appreciative of that energy, and that keeps me going through these moments that feel really spooky and I don't know what I'm doing, and can I trust this, and will this work? It's just the reassurance of the people around it every day of our Club Gooey,
You're already doing something really special for them, because the brand promise is being authentically and honestly delivered on. They are getting a little more gooey. You're making their lives better, and they would not be responding to you with that level of affection and understanding when things go wobbly if they didn't really feel like you were honoring that promise. Yeah. So I think feel good. You don't have to move on to philanthropy just yet.
No, I'm like, here we go, to the moon. It does feel really amazing, and I'm always so grateful of the girls where I'm like, hey, sorry, September, my 3PL didn't tell me that we were out of gummies, which seems really crucial since it's a huge piece of our brand. And so to even with these girls to go, hey, I'm really sorry, this is what's going on, your replacement's on the way. I actually gifted a large chunk of those orders that were severely delayed, our new drops in there, to just I really give a shit. I really care, and I want them to feel loved, and I think they really understand that, and give me a lot of grace and patience, which I'm eternally grateful for as we adapt to this growth.
If you could encounter Paizley at 18, if she was sitting here now and you were to walk into the room, what would you whisper in her ear?
Yeah, well, there's a line that actually Reese Witherspoon said on a podcast once that really hit home for me, which is you don't have to hold on so tight. You don't have to worry so much and really grip and be so fearful. It all works out. And it always has, even in the worst moments. But there's a lot of clenching and tension and fear for a lot of my adolescence and 20s, and being so fearful that we wouldn't come to this moment. So I tell her, just enjoy the ride a little bit more.
That's a beautiful message.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today.
Oh, thank you. I'm all excited about it.
I loved it. I loved it.
Thank you.
I am so excited for you.
Thank you.
And I don't know if the interview's still going or not, but I just want to say this.
Thanks.
I'm so excited for you genuinely because I think I haven't met too many founders in the last 25 years. I've met a couple, not many, who so authentically embody their brand promise that that you cannot separate the two, and you can't fake that, and people love it.
No.
And it gives you permission to do all sorts of things because you can fully realize that promise in all kinds of categories and all kinds of products and physical retail and wholesale, online. Yeah. I'm just so amped for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Awesome. That means a lot.
I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh, thanks. I hope so. I feel good about it. So that's like a really, really beautiful point of validation. Thank you.
Well, I apologize for being so damn nervous.
No, what? You're fine. You're perfect.
I've loved meeting you, and I think it's just been a wonderful conversation. I think it's going to inspire a bunch of people.
I hope so. I hope so. Even just one would be great. So
it's just one, exactly.
Yeah, it's just one.
Thank you.
My job.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I loved it.
Fine, you guys. I'm not crying.
Thanks,
you're crying. I know. I'm all verklempt. Oh, honey, thank you. Truly, thank you so much.
Awesome. I loved it.
Oh, I did too. I feel really great about it.
That was really fun.
I'm excited. My palms are a little sweaty, but in a hot way. Whatever.
But we've got to do a part 2.
Yeah,
because you're going to be run rating 10 mil in no time.
Oh,
so
cool.
when you go from 9 to 10 figures.
Oh, I know that Vanity Fair thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea.
I'd be honored.
You're run rating 7. I think you're going to be run rating 9 honestly in no time.
Wow.
So
it's great news for my closet and Susan getting a backyard. Really great news for Susan getting a backyard.
Enormously well compensated employees.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we're all going to the moon together, I'm just happy.